The last few days in AI have been absolutely wild. New frontier models, billion-dollar deals, and companies literally firing thousands of people just to buy more GPUs. Let's walk through what actually happened, why it matters, and how it all connects. Now let's talk about the big story from China, DeepSeek V4. So this is China's big open-weight model update, and coverage over the last week keeps pointing to one idea: almost frontier at a fraction of the price. DeepSeek has previewed two main variants, V4 Pro and V4 Flash. Pro clocks in at about 1.6 trillion parameters with 49 billion active at a time, while Flash is a smaller 284 billion parameter version with 13 billion active. Both run a mixture of experts architecture and both offer a 1 million token context window just like the top US models. So basically, if GPT-5.5 is the high-end sports car, DeepSeek V4 is the heavily discounted electric sedan that still does 0-100 really fast. It's open weights under an Apache-style license, it's already on Hugging Face, and the reported API pricing massively undercuts closed models from OpenAI and Anthropic. And here's the twist that matters geopolitically. Reuters reports V4 is trained to run on Huawei Ascend chips rather than NVIDIA hardware, which is a huge signal about China trying to de-risk its AI stack from US export controls. Analysts quoted in that coverage call it a significant development for China's AI sector because it proves you can get near-frontier performance without NVIDIA. While GPT-5.5 raises the bar for raw intelligence, DeepSeek is playing the opposite angle, not the absolute smartest model, but the smartest cheap model you can actually deploy at scale. Have you tested DeepSeek V4 already? Let me know in the comments below, so let us now switch to GPT-5.5. This one kind of quietly dropped, but it's a big deal. OpenAI rolled it out on April 23rd, and over the last week, the analysis has been piling up. This isn't just a small patch on GPT 5.4, it's a fully retrained base model with a new center of gravity for how it thinks. Now here's the thing, OpenAI is positioning GPT 5.5 as their main frontier model for real work. Coding, using computers, long context reasoning, all in one system. Benchmarks floating around show around 88.7% on SWE-Bench Verified and about 92.4% on MMLU, with roughly 60% fewer hallucinations compared to GPT 5.4, which is basically fewer confident lies in normal language. Basically what that means is, instead of just generating nice-sounding text, GPT 5.5 is much better at staying grounded when it's doing deep research, debugging code, or operating tools. Think of GPT 5.4 as a very smart intern, and 5.5 as the same intern after a full brain transplant and a few months of serious training. And it's not just raw IQ. Reports say OpenAI rebuilt the long context side too. Long document performance effectively doubled on some internal tests, while keeping the 1 million token window that lets it read entire code bases or books in one go. This next one is kind of harsh. Meta is cutting about 8,000 jobs, roughly 10% of the company, and freezing another 6,000 open roles. And the reason they keep giving is basically, we need to feed the AI beast. In internal memos and follow-up reporting, Meta says the cuts are about running more efficiently and making room for other investments. But when you look at the numbers, those investments are almost entirely AI. Guidance for 2026 capital expenditure is in the range of $115 to $135 billion, up from about $72 billion the year before, and analysts say most of that is data centers, GPUs, and AI infrastructure. Basically what this means is Meta is trading headcount for hardware. One Fortune summary described it as a relentless march, tens of thousands of roles over multiple years as the company shifts budget from people to compute while still reporting huge profits. And tech press in Europe flat out framed it as Meta axes 8,000 jobs to fund AI spending spree, which is about as on the nose as you can get. Now here's the bigger picture. This isn't just a Meta mismanaged hiring story. You're seeing the same pattern at Microsoft and others, voluntary buyouts, restructuring, all while AI CapEx numbers go vertical. So when Mark Zuckerberg says 2026 is the year AI dramatically changes how we work, he's not just talking about productivity, he's telegraphing where the payroll budget is going. Okay, next story. Google is basically wiring a gigantic check to Anthropic. Alphabet has agreed to invest up to $40 billion in Anthropic, $10 billion now, and another $30 billion tied to performance milestones. If you made this far, feel free to subscribe and give a like to the video. So let's talk about what that really is. Anthropic already had a big cloud and cache deal with Amazon worth up to $25 billion over time, and now Google is matching, and then some, with its own cache and compute package. That means one relatively young AI lab just lined up something like $65 billion of potential backing from two of the world's biggest cloud providers. Basically, Anthropic is becoming the Switzerland of frontier models, but powered by hyperscaler money. In exchange, Google gets Anthropic committed to its custom chips and cloud, and analysts say this is as much about locking in workloads for Google Cloud as it is about the models themselves. Remember the GPT-5.5 and DeepSeek stories from earlier? This is why the money is so aggressive. OpenAI pushes the frontier, DeepSeek pushes open cheap models, and Anthropic becomes the safety and enterprise play backed by both Amazon and Google. If you zoom out, April basically turned into a capital competition wrapped around about 3 companies. So, while Google is doubling down on Anthropic, Microsoft quietly lost its biggest advantage. At the end of April, Microsoft and OpenAI announced that Microsoft no longer has exclusive access to OpenAI's models. Now here's the thing, Microsoft still keeps a huge stake in OpenAI, and it still gets to run these models deeply inside Azure, Office, GitHub, all of that. What changes is the legal part. The IP license is now non-exclusive, and OpenAI is free to put GPT-5.5 and whatever comes next on Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, or any other platform it wants. Basically what this means is, the one cloud to rule them all era is over. If you're a big enterprise, you can now imagine choosing OpenAI models on multiple clouds or mixing them with Anthropic, DeepSeek, and Meta models without feeling locked into Microsoft as the only first-class home. And remember the CapEx and investment numbers we talked about? Cloud providers are burning hundreds of billions of dollars building AI super data centers. Ending exclusivity is OpenAI's way of saying, we want everyone's GPUs, not just Microsoft's, and it forces Microsoft to compete on performance and integration instead of just access. All right, back to models, but this time from Meta. While they're cutting those 8,000 jobs, they're also rolling out a new flagship AI model called Muse Spark. And Wall Street is paying close attention. Muse Spark is basically Meta's answer to GPT-style assistants, but with some twists. It's closed source, unlike the Llama family, and accepts text, images, and audio as input in one unified model. The headline feature everyone keeps talking about is Contemplating mode. When you toggle it, the model doesn't just think longer, it spins up multiple internal agents that reason in parallel and then merge their answers. So instead of one brain thinking in a straight line, you get a small committee of brains arguing internally, then handing you a single, more considered response. Meta's own benchmarks show big jumps on hard reasoning tests like Humanity's Last Exam and more abstract science benchmarks when Contemplating mode is on. Basically what this means is, Meta isn't trying to beat GPT 5.5 on every leaderboard. It's trying to be good enough at reasoning, but deeply optimized for Meta's own products and ads business. Analysts say the real play is vertical. Muse Spark powers Meta AI inside apps, makes recommendations smarter, and hopefully justifies those insane AI infrastructure budgets we talked about earlier. So let's close out with something that sounds like science fiction but is very real. GPT 5.5 Cyber. At the end of April, Sam Altman posted that OpenAI is starting to roll out a special cybersecurity variant of GPT 5.5 to what he called critical cyber defenders. Now here's the thing, we already saw GPT 5.4 Cyber earlier in the month. OpenAI briefed U.S. agencies and the Five Eyes Alliance on it and positioned it as a defensive-only model for finding vulnerabilities and helping blue team operations. GPT-5.5 Cyber is the next step. Take the stronger, more agentic GPT-5.5 base model and tune it specifically for high-stakes cyber defense, then lock access behind a strict trusted access program. Basically, what this means is we're entering a world where there are public AIs and classified AIs. Public models help you write emails and code. Restricted models quietly help governments and critical infrastructure teams hunt for 0 days, simulate attacks, and patch systems before someone bad gets there first. And remember how Anthropic's Mythos model spooked regulators? Because of how good it is at offensive security research, GPT 5.5 Cyber is OpenAI's answer on the defensive side. So yeah, AI did not slow down this week. We've got new brains, open weight challengers, billion-dollar bets, and companies reshaping themselves just to keep up. If you want a deeper dive on any one of these stories, let me know in the comments below. That's it for this week's AI news. Please subscribe, like, and share the video. Until next time, and bye for now.